Today we're talking about why you need a savvy investment property realtor if you're going to be investing in real estate. That kind of makes sense, doesn't it? Why not get an expert? So, I'm just going to introduce myself and then we're going to dive straight in. This is going to take about 20 minutes. So I'm LeAnn Riley, and I'm an expert and consultant in the real estate investing world. And you can ask questions in the chat box as we go along today. And I'm a consultant and a broker, and I help ambitious high performers build personal roadmap to wealth with real estate investing and help them build their portfolio. I built a $14 million portfolio in residential, multifamily, condo development, commercial, and vacation properties right here in the Twin Cities. And I work with a couple other investment property realtors that were on the Encore investment team. So we got a group of us, okay? And then here, my cohort is Eric Janson. And he is the operations manager for the Proven Profit Formula National Coaching Program. But really, he's also a sophisticated investment property realtor right here in the Twin Cities. And he's really, we have done a lot of deals in all the investor strategies. And that's what makes us so different. It's not like we only do one strategy, we do them all. We've seen, we had to figure it out as we went along. That's how I learned real estate investing. Anyway, he's passionate about collaboration because that's what it is when we work with investors. We're kind of collaborating, smart decisions, and there's an urgency in the fast-paced market today. So let's get rolling here. And Eric put together some slides for us just to help make it easier. I see we got a few more people here. Hello. So how an investment savvy realtor can help you grow your portfolio, because I've helped people start from 0 to over 50 units. And, it's scary along the way, really, but you just have to dive in. So go ahead, Eric, what's the next slide?
Okay. So the first one is understanding investment numbers. So what's different between an investor savvy realtor and a regular everyday residential, like you said, realtor? And the first thing is understanding the numbers. Most realtors will give you comps, but that's the extent of what you'll get. You won't really know, does it work? Does it not work? And all that kind of good stuff. So that's kind of where our expertise comes in to help bridge that gap.
When we say understanding investment numbers, maybe you're a short-term rental person. We don't know every city that does allow it and doesn't allow it here in the Twin Cities, but we know where to get the resources. So that might be something we suggest. Hey, you better check with Richfield if that's where you think you're going to do it, and make sure that they allow it, because you'd be surprised. I know Bloomington is one. Bloomington doesn't actually allow short-term rentals, but go to Airbnb and guess what you see? A whole bunch of Bloomington rentals. But if you were the owner of that property, that's risky. And, that's not a good formula. And that's what we want to help guide you on.
Yeah, for sure. As far as if you're buying an investment property as a rental, that's another thing where we would look for rental comps and, help to figure out, what that's all going to cost. What are your expenses? If you're buying a duplex, are you paying utilities or not? Or is the tenant going to pay that? So, there's a few things that a residential agent's just going to go in and say, this looks like a nice property. And, it might probably will appreciate, here's what it's worth. And that's the extent usually that they go. So,
and we go much more,
we go a little bit further than that. So
yeah, we're going to show you the rental comps that we can get from some programs that we subscribe to. We're going to show you, we have a formula for the numbers, and we'll share that with you by the end of the show today.
Yeah.
But it's amazing how many investors we work with that are maybe just learning, or maybe they have one property. And I always ask, how's that property doing? And sometimes they say, oh, yeah, I'm making $500 a month. Well, when they run it through the formula, not really. And you need to know that. Where are you at?
Yeah, the other thing I would say too is a lot of times I'll talk to an investor and they'll say, I just send me any good deals. And I'm always like, okay, well, what does that mean? Because, person A might think one thing and person B might think another, and they might both think one might think it's a good deal, the other one might not. And
Yeah.
so it's understanding not just the numbers of the property too, but understanding based on what you as an investor are trying to do, does this deal make sense for you or not? And so that's kind of what we do a lot is we'll look through deals, we'll find deals, we'll say, hey, this one might work for so-and-so, this might work for, one investor that we just talked to, and he wants she or he wants this kind of property, a rental property, whatever it is. So it's tailoring it to your specific needs as well.
We keep a deal board going, and maybe client A is looking for short-term rentals and client B only likes townhouses or hates townhouses, client C, or or a certain area they want their single family home, or they only want a duplex or a fourplex. We keep track of that so we can do some matchmaking.
Yep, for sure. Right.
Okay.
So with that, we also, with networking and, talking to sellers and things like that, we have access a lot of times to some off-market exclusive potential deals that other agents may not have access to. So, one thing I wanted to say is off-market doesn't necessarily mean good deal though. So I want to stress the point there that a lot of people I think if it's an off-market deal, then it's a really, really good deal. And that's the ones I want. So it's not always the
That's
case.
that's very true. And sometimes those off-market deals are very good deals.
Sometimes.
You, the investor, needs to know the difference. Is it a good deal or isn't it a good deal? Just because it's off market doesn't mean it's cheaper.
Right. And I would say there are quite a few good deals on market too. So don't just, a lot of times I'll run to investors and they only want off market. They don't want anything on market, that they don't want to deal with that. Well, if you know what you're looking for, you can find deals on the market. I find them every day. Maybe not every day for a certain client, but I find them every day for some client on my list of clients that are looking. I'll find something and maybe I'll find multiple properties in a day that'll work for that specific client and their strategy and what they're looking for. So
And
it's
sometimes, they'll tell us their strategy is, let's say I want a one level single family in the western suburbs that have for 250,000. Well, let's get real, folks.
mhm,
That's going to be a shack. I'm just saying. Now,
right.
maybe you could buy a fixer for 250, but you're going to have to put 50 or 70 into it. So sometimes, and then we'll look for that. We're not going to judge. We're going to look for that, but we're going to also teach you reality of the market.
Correct. Yep. Yeah. So what you might want might not be reality. Maybe it was a reality a few years ago, or whatever the case is, but what you're looking for now may not be a reality, and you might have to be willing to adjust some to, make things work so you can get in the game, continue to, grow your portfolio. So
Yep.
third one here is connection to investor focused vendors. We have an extensive vendor list that we vet, that we go through, and it includes a lot of what a traditional agent would usually have: plumbers, electricians, things like that. But we go steps further in having property management, even short-term property management. And so different things like that that can help give you more resources needed to get the deals done.
And the other thing about us, because I coach nationally, like this was a great story. Eric knew someone who had a house that was, in ill repair, but it happened to be in Miami, Florida. And, you know, here we are in Minnesota. Well, guess what? I knew somebody to call, and we had somebody go over there and make an offer. He never left Minnesota. That can happen frequently too. Again, this is about who we know. And I've been around the block for a lot of years, over 30 years in real estate. And those connections, you know, investors are investors and they change strategies as they go along, but they're still investors. And it's about relationships. That's how you get better deals.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. And that was what that example pointed to, is having a relationship with a cash buyer who was potentially looking to buy a property that needed repair, and did properties down in that area. So it, yeah, it took a day and then he was already in it and making an offer. So
I know that's really great. And I recently had a deal right here in Eden Prairie that was, it was a house that needed a lot of care and it needed a rehab to resell it. So it was perfect. But I just called, I had 5 cash buyers I could call, you know, but I just called one. We did the deal. It never went on the market. It wouldn't have sold on the market. It needed too much work and it was a mess.
yeah,
But the dumpsters parked there, they're working on it and it'll come back out as a decent product.
yep, yep,
So, and those sellers were very, very happy that I could get them through that at a pace that worked for them. They could leave anything they wanted to leave there and only take what they wanted. And it just, and pick the date, it made it easy for them.
yep, yeah, for sure. Yeah, it was that way. They would have never found that if they would have gone to a regular residential agent. They would have put
No,
it in the market. It would have probably sat, and it would have been a tough sell because it just didn't show well. So,
no, and they couldn't even wrap their head around that.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been challenging. So
Yep.
the next one here is knowledge of the rental market. So again, a residential regular agent, you know, they're not, this isn't their, usually their area of expertise. They're not in the rental market. They're into buy, you know, helping sellers sell properties and helping buyers buy properties. They're not finding out what's renting, what the rent market is looking like as far as how much rent. Is it a good rental market? Is it going to take me a long time to rent the property? You know, what about this area, that area? You know, statistically, Minneapolis, St. Paul is running around, we were looked it up, as far as 5% vacancy rate. So strong rental market that we have here, but you know, like I said, a residential agent's not going to know that information. So
Exactly. And there's another point here. Like St. Paul adopted rent control. I think it was about 3 years ago.
yeah,
And
around 3 years ago, yeah.
what that it was the toughest rent control rules in the nation, you guys, right here in St. Paul. And it was about you could only raise your rent 3%. Well, that's cool if you already had your rent the right rate. But if you bought a property and the rent was way low, you couldn't get it right sided right away. That's a consideration when buying. So if you have an agent who doesn't even know this information, you could buy the wrong building. And that's the darn thing about real estate. You know, we can't send it back to Amazon, you know, like we can
Right.
anything else.
Or the other example is a few years ago, what was it? What city was that? Maple Grove. Maple Grove had a
Oh,
renting
yeah.
moratorium on rentals. They had 1 year where you had a single family rental, you couldn't rent it. So if you already had it, you were grandfathered in. But if you bought a new property in that 1 year period and you were planning on renting it and you closed on it and you went to try to put a renter in there, they wouldn't give you a renter's license. You would have been stuck with having to either just sit on it for a year, up to a year, or reselling it because you couldn't rent it because they were having too many rentals in that area. So just being able to know some of these things that pop up that, you know, like I said, other agents may not know. So
Yeah, and you had a client who bought in Maple Grove, but he closed before the rule went into effect. Thank
yeah,
goodness.
he closed about a month and a half
Yeah,
or 2 months or something like that before the rule went into effect. So he was able to then be grandfathered into the program, or in, not to the program, but into a rental. So he didn't have to wait that year period. But at that point, once that period started, you had to wait until the year was up before you could rent in there, or before you could have a rental in that area. So, yeah.
We have tools, like I said, to be able to give you the range of rents it should be in with statistics, so you can look for yourself. That's important. Very important. And that can go, kind of block by block sometimes, depending on where you're buying.
Yeah, it's not an exact science for sure. I mean, it's sometimes more challenging to get a rental comp than it is to get a for sale comp, because it's not as much data out there sometimes available. But for the most part, we can still usually do it. If it's in the metro, it's pretty easy to do. If you're in the outskirts, if you're in a small town, it can be a little bit more challenging to figure out what the rents are in a smaller town if you're not familiar. Just because there's not going to be the data like there is that's around the metro and in Minneapolis, St. Paul. So keeping that in mind, and you need to really kind of understand, but some of the things, we've got other ways to figure that out, figure out what the rents are, and to help a client with that, to be able to understand what they could rent the property for. So.
And this is just one of the things I always teach is I built the portfolio on Section 8 government subsidized rentals, affordable housing. And in smaller towns, just so you know, there's usually a lack of enough properties. What does it say? That's opportunity, folks.
Yep. Yep. For sure. Yep. Yeah. When there's demand, that's where you want to be. And we'll talk about that here in a little bit as well. So. And the fifth one, this is the last one, is proven strategies to build wealth through real estate. There are a lot of different strategies when it comes to real estate investing. A lot. There's strategies, and then there's strategies combined with other strategies that can make a whole new kind of strategy. So it's being able to, as a investment savvy realtor, being able to understand what strategy you as an investor are trying to implement, and knowing as an agent what properties best fit that strategy, because it's not a one for all. It's not everything's going to work, and so it's understanding what best suits you in that particular strategy, and maybe even having suggestions on what may be a better strategy if you're struggling with the one you're currently doing, or because you might say, well, this is what I want to do, and based on what you have for resources and your capabilities, we might suggest you might maybe want to try this, or so it's understanding all those strategies to help you further your portfolio.
And what he's talking about is maybe we get people who come to us, hey, I want to fix and flip, but they've never done it before.
Mhm.
Well, you better walk slow if you've never done it before, and you better find grandma's house that just needs carpet and paint and
Yeah.
something really light for your first one, because in the investing world, your first one is the hardest.
Yeah,
And
I often cringe when I have an investor and have ever done it before, and they want to take on a full gut job rehab that's just, maybe it almost needs to be tore down kind of property, and they want to take that as their first property, and on top of that, I mean, if they're handy, that's one thing, but if they're not, if that's not their forte, and they're going to be, hiring a lot of this stuff out or trying to do some of it themselves as they figure it out, I get really nervous for somebody like that. I agree. The best bet would be to buy something simple, something easier. Yeah, your margin's going to be a lot less, but it's safer, it's easier. You get in, you get out, you make a little bit of money, and you can go on and you can build up to that big gut job at some point, but not at the beginning.
no, not at the beginning. It wasn't just me, guys. We built the portfolio, my then husband and I, on condemned buildings. But I remember being scared shitless on that first one. Like, oh my God, a condemned building, and it had about a 50-page work orders. And I was like, are you kidding? But we got it. I think we got it for $50,000, and it was a fourplex. Okay, but a year later, we were flat broke, and you know, because of all the stuff. There was a fire while we owned it. Somebody stole the plumbing, all that stuff. But we
Yep,
made it. We made it. And we made 122,000 guys on that piece of property. It was hell though, you know.
yep, yep, yep. I mean, you can do it. I mean, if you're a newbie and you want to take on that big project, it's just a lot more risk. And I'm not saying it can't be done.
It wasn't
You can
easy and
do it.
it took twice as long and cost twice as much. That's what I always say on the first project.
Yep, yep, yep. Unless you're working with somebody that knows what they're doing, that's the different scenario then.
Right,
So,
but maybe you just want a nice single family, 3 bedroom, 2 bath rental in a decent neighborhood. That's much easier. And maybe you don't want to just get a property manager. We can, you know, refer, we always refer 3 people, folks, just so you know, because I feel that that gives you the opportunity to interview those people and see who fits with you.
yep,
Whether it's insurance, lenders, whatever, we give you 3 because then you can pick.
yep.
You can get 3 bids and then decide.
So this next slide, I just wanted to talk about, a lot of times I hear investors saying, well, I don't think right now is a good time to buy. I mean, rates are high and, it's not, there's not a lot of houses for sale for one, but rates are high and it's just, I kind of want to wait until, rates stabilize and then I can get into a property that, won't cost me as much and maybe it'll cash flow better and all that kind of stuff. Well, some statistics here. This is from the National Association of Realtors. This is the Housing Affordability Index. And so I want to point out a few things on here, basically from the last couple of years. And I'm kind of a data guy, so, bear with me on this, but I'll try to help you through it. So first thing I want to point out here is the prices. If you look at the prices from 2022, 2023, and 2024, each year it's ticked up, a little bit each year, not crazy, but that's kind of a standard thing. Even though we've had the rates increase, if you look at 22 to 23, the rates jumped up considerably in that time frame. It still went up a couple $1,000s in value, housing in the median price of a house. So prices aren't really getting any cheaper. And then you look at the interest, the mortgage rates. Yeah, they're high. They went down a little bit, but they're still, they're still pretty high up there. But the biggest thing I want to look at here is the monthly payments. So if you thought, well, in 22, I'll wait until the rates come down because they started going up in 22, the average, payment and interest payment, monthly payment has gone up almost $400 since 22. So that's $400 that you could have had in your pocket in potential cash flow. That's now out the door because you're kind of waiting to see what is going to happen when the rates go down. And I guess the question for you, LeAnn, let's say the rates do go down considerably in the next couple of years and they get back to where they were maybe in 2022 at like 5.5%. What do you think that's going to do to the prices?
Oh, they'll still keep going up because
Right.
that real estate appreciates, but that's what I love. That's when you refinance, then
Right.
you,
If you bought now, as opposed
exactly,
to waiting until the rates go down, because if
exactly.
you wait until the rates go down, this is showing
Price
it's a
drop.
it's a short time frame snapshot. But basically, what's probably going to happen is that monthly payment is probably going to continue to go up, not
Yeah.
dramatically go down, because as rates go down, prices are going to go up. That at the very best, you're going to break even. So waiting isn't really going to get you anything from a payment standpoint.
Well, and remember, I said I've been in this business for 30 years, started buying in the late 80s and the 90s, and guess interest rate was 18%. And it didn't matter because I knew the formula and it's still cash flow.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
The
As long
rate
as
isn't everything.
correct, correct. Yeah. And back then it might have been different. The last thing I want to point out in this graph is the affordability index. So not to make this too complicated for everybody, but to understand an affordability index. So if the number is 100, that means the average family can afford the average home with 20% down is what that index is indicating. So if it's over 100, that means properties are more affordable. People are making more than they need to make in order to afford a home. If it's under 100, they're making less than they need to make to be able to afford a home. So you want the number over 100, and the higher the better for affordability purposes when you want to buy a house. Now, on the flip side of that, if you're looking at buying a property to rent to somebody, the lower the affordability is, the lower that number is below 100 is actually better for you, because in basically what happens is people have a less ability to be able to afford to buy a property. So what are they going to do? They still have to live somewhere. They're going to rent a property. So if that affordability index, like it was in 23, is 96.9, it's below 100, more people are apt to then rent because they can't afford to buy. As that number goes up, as it did slightly in 2024, people are going to be more apt to wanting to buy as opposed to rent. So my point with this is basically we're in an environment right now where it's a prime time where the rental demand is very high because of the affordability issue people have with being able to purchase a home. They can't afford to purchase a home, therefore they need to rent. So more and more people are getting pushed over to the rent side of the equation.
Yep.
So, all right. And then the last graph here, this is last graph slide, not the last slide, but the last graph, is basically kind of reiterating what I just said in another graph form. But what it is if you look at that line that's like light blue, that's kind of stayed even down there in the bottom, and that's the rent amount. So that's how much it costs somebody to rent on a per month basis. And if you look at the black line, that's the average amount that it costs to pay a mortgage payment. And so if you kind of look for a number of years there, they ran pretty much in parallel. One would jump a little bit below the other and look like the rent one is pretty much steadily up at a certain angle there. And then the mortgage one's kind of going up and down. Those are interest rates. Those are as well as, the price of the property, all that factored in. But if you look at the last couple of years, ever since COVID, the mortgage payment has jumped dramatically because of the appreciation in homes, and then you had interest rates go up on top of that. So there's a huge gap right now. It's 35% gap between what it costs to rent a property versus what it costs to pay the mortgage on a property, in an average property right now. And this also is showing that they're projecting that this gap is going to remain for about the next 5 years before it kind of finds each other again and equals out again. So there's an opportunity here because there is a higher demand for renting, because it's way more affordable right now to rent than it is to purchase and own a home. So
that's a key number, really. Look at that. And that means buy now, folks. Why wait till the end of the 5 years when it's going to change? Get in there now, and you're going to probably have less vacancies, because we looked, Minneapolis and St. Paul were roughly 5% vacancy, right?
yeah. It was about 5.3 for
Yeah.
Minneapolis and St. Paul. So, yep. So this is kind of getting to what they call the rise of the forever renter, where people are going to want to stay in a rental property for more of a length of time. So, because the affordability thing is a big issue for.
There's another stat that goes with it. The baby boomers are now getting, the biggest chunk of the population. And what's that stat? In the next 5 years, over 50% of the population will be a senior of some sort. And those seniors, they can't take care of the house anymore and mow the lawn and they're going to be renters now.
Yeah, that's exactly what my parents did. My dad and stepmom, they live in a smaller town north of here, and they had a big yard. They lived on about an acre of land, and they're just getting up there in age. They can't get the lawn mowed. They can't plow the driveway. They can't take care of the yard and take care of the house and all those type of things. So what did they do? They moved into that small town, into a build to rent. So this is a property that was built. These are townhomes that were built for rentals, one level living. They rent it. They don't have to worry about all the maintenance and the outside. So it's perfect for them. And that's what LeAnn's talking about. You're going to see more and more of a shift to that. With these baby boomers getting up there in age and saying, I can't take care of my house anymore. I can't take care of the yard. I don't want to move into like a nursing home or assisted living or anything like that. I can still take care of myself, but I just don't have the energy or the ability to take care of everything around the house. So they move into a rental property where they don't have to do a lot of that stuff.
And that's, I guess, we're right at the end here, folks. And that's my tip of the day. If you're gonna buy single families, buy one levels, because you got a long ride here because of exactly what we just taught you. So that's proof, you guys. We gave you a secret here at the end. This is proof why you have to have investment savvy realtors. We're watching these trends, we're watching these numbers. We know what's coming in any market.
Yep. Yep. So this last slide here is basically, we have a cash flow analysis spreadsheet. This is for long-term rentals. This isn't really for short-term, but a long-term rental. It gives you the ability to be able to figure out, does the deal work or doesn't it work? LeAnn and I did a video a little while back that explains this, and in there gives you the ability to get access to this cash flow analysis spreadsheet. So if you clicked on that QR code there, it'll bring you to a link that'll bring you to the video. And you'll be able to watch through us go through deals. Basically what we did is we took deals on the market today, put them through the cash flow analysis spreadsheet and showed whether they worked or they didn't work. And so then you'll get access to that spreadsheet as well through there.
And this is really what I've been teaching people in my coaching program. But what's great about this, you guys, it's an Excel spreadsheet, and all you have to do is change the gray numbers. You don't have to know all these formulas, they're in there. So what I love about this is if you use a tool like this, you can figure out, should I go look at it or not? Because if it doesn't cash flow, maybe not, depending, unless your strategy is appreciation and you want that one level house in Edina. You're probably not going to cash flow on that house, but you're buying it for appreciation. That's a riskier strategy, but that's why we have to know, just like a financial planner would, which strategy are you interested in and will it work?
Right, right. And I would say that I would agree with what you said. The only thing I would say to that is, if you're looking at a property, and sometimes if it is already a rental, sometimes the rents aren't always up to snuff. Sometimes they're lower. So if you take it for face value, sometimes you'll miss an opportunity.
Yep.
Here's another tip for you. You'll miss an opportunity that might be right there in your face, where, hey, these rents are really low. If I right size the rents, I'd actually cash flow this property. Maybe I want to take a look at it, because
Yep.
on paper right now it doesn't cash flow, but if I up
If you're
some rent,
renting it
or
first,
maybe I make some value add improvements, or maybe I can add a bedroom or something to add some value to the property to actually get my rents higher and actually get it to cash flow pretty well.
yeah. And that's why Eric and I say there's deals on the market, but you got to have tools to quickly figure out, is it a deal or isn't it a deal? Does it fit? And that's what we know and can help you with.
Yep. Yep.
So go ahead and scan that. Go ahead and turn it off. And if anybody has questions, we're here. We'll answer them.
Yep. So
We
just
can put them in the chat box. Oh yeah, there's Eric's
here's
information.
me, email, phone number if you want to get a hold of me. If you have any questions or need help buying or selling a property or an investment property, definitely can help you with that. So that's me. And then LeAnn has a coaching program. You can go to her website and get all the details on it there, and learn about that as well.
And
So,
that free strategy session right there, Eric and I will do that with anybody. A free
yep.
strategy session. We're here to help you and just find out, where are you at? Where do you want to go? And what do you need to get there? So Angie wants the spreadsheet. Yeah, you have to, she wants an email for the spreadsheet. Just email.
Just send an email to, you
You
want the
can send it
spreadsheet?
to,
Oops. Let me go back.
oops,
Just send an email to this soldbyjanson@gmail.com.
yeah, and he'll send it.
Over the spreadsheet.
Or scan that thing, just so you know, if you're driving like L'Oreal is,
Yep.
this presentation goes on my LeAnn Riley Real Estate,
YouTube page. Yep.
yes, YouTube
Channel.
page.
Yep.
It'll be on there in a few days, so you can always go skip to the end
Yep.
and find
So
that
just
hand
send me
code.
an email, soldbyjansen@gmail.com, or like LeAnn said, go to LeAnn Riley Real Estate on YouTube, and you will find the video there in a few days, and you can go ahead and rewatch
Find
it.
that code.
Find the code or find my email and send me a.
Right, we need
email as well.
we need you to, you kind of have to sign up for it because then, and then you'll get on our email list. So we give away so many tips all the time, don't we, Eric?
Yeah. I mean, we just gave away a few just now, but that's part of what working with us we do on a regular basis with our clients is being able to help them navigate what they're looking to do. And I mean, I run across a lot of clients where they'll be wanting to do one strategy, and you know what? Let me shift over to do this other strategy, and helping them transition and figuring all that stuff out. So.
Yep. All right, well, I didn't, oh wait, there's a new message down there. Did I miss it?
See any
I'll do
other
both. Andrew's
any
gonna do both.
yeah.
And Pradit says, thank you. Thank you, you
Well,
guys. And
thank you.
we'll be on here, we keep doing these live streams all the time. So that's part of our
Yeah,
real
let
estate
us know if you have any
investing.
questions.
What?
Let us know if you have any questions.
Yep, just like I said, we'll do a free strategy session. Go over to the website and you can figure that all out. Okay,
Yeah, it's pretty simple. It's just on Zoom. It's not like, I have to
yeah,
meet somewhere and all that. It's the same kind of format. So it's really easy and simple to go through a strategy sessions. All right. Perfect.
thank you,
Thank
everybody.
you. Take care. Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.